first, let's talk about that Friday bell ringer. So how do you rate your ability to write an effective claim? So go ahead and just, hover your cursor over where you're at. Are you brilliant? Really good? Pretty good? Not very good? Awful? Well, wherever you're at, I bet you anything there's room for improvement. So that's what we're going to do today. So remember that the prompt was, which is better, traditional or digital art? And if you watched all the videos in the week 1 lesson, then you got quite a bit of information about how exciting the digital art field is with all of the different technological mediums that we can use to create not only digital art that is two-dimensional on a screen or hanging on a wall, but also digital art that's interactive, three-dimensional, something that engages the participant. It's really awesome. A claim should only be 1 sentence long, so let's have that be like the #1 rule. We're just going to write claims that are 1 sentence long. Here's an example. Either. So this is in response to the prompt. Either, period. It doesn't matter the type of art you make. What matters is how you see that art, period. Some people like traditional art and some people like digital art, period. They're both considered art because they both required skill and hard work, period. Now, excellent ideas. You wouldn't agree, of course, or you wouldn't disagree. These are excellent ideas, but it's not 1 sentence. So we would need to combine all of those ideas together into 1 sentence for that to be an effective claim. But don't scrap that, use it somewhere in your body paragraph as details. Digital art is better than traditional art. So here's an example of, now we are stating the argument clearly. It's coming directly from the prompt, and then we're going to state the evidence because traditional art is a lot harder than digital art. I'm not sure if that's true or not. Sometimes I think digital art is harder than traditional art, but you are entitled to make your claim. Do not answer the prompt with yes, no, or I think. So here's an example of answering the prompt with I think. Personally, I think traditional art is better because it is authentic and it's not edited to look perfect. So when we say things like I think, I believe, we're kind of just making it look like it's our opinion. And when we're writing an argument paper, we don't want it to be confused with an opinion. We want to be the authority on it because we've done our research and we are going to present evidence to support that it is true and valid. So let the evidence speak for itself. We could rewrite this claim. So if you want to pause the video for a second and rewrite it in your mind, how would you rewrite it? Here's an example. Traditional art is better because it is authentic and it's not edited to look perfect. So all you need to do is take out the personally I think, and there you go. You've got a claim. An effective claim clearly states the argument. So we've kind of talked about that a little bit already. Here's an example of a claim that a student submitted. Digital, because we were able to do more stuff like push and pull and recurve lines. Excellent. Evidence. I love the evidence. But when we think about digital as an argument, digital all by itself isn't an argument, right? Is digital art is better an argument? Is it a complete argument? Better than what? It kind of begs a question, doesn't it? So here we go. Digital art is better than traditional art because traditional art is a lot harder than digital art. Or we could go because you're able to do more stuff like push and pull and recurve lines. So I could have pulled all of that evidence in there too. An effective claim provides evidence to support the argument. So watch out. Just saying traditional art is better than digital art is not enough. In order to have an effective claim, you need to have a reason. Both traditional and digital art are very outstanding in their own ways. Neither is more superior than the other. By the way, that should be than, T-H-A-N. So this one doesn't really have any evidence. It's still just stating the argument. Traditional art is better than digital art because everything that you would be making is from your head. The lines aren't perfect, the color isn't streakless, and it just looks like you put more effort into making it perfect. So here we go. This is a good example of a claim. We've got traditional art is better than digital art in the beginning, which is our argument, and then we have the evidence, because everything that you would be making is from your head. There's one piece of evidence. Here's the second piece. The lines aren't perfect. The color isn't streakless, and it just looks like you put more effort into it. So quite a bit of evidence there. Good job. An effective claim should stay focused, specific, and relevant. So let's take a look at this one closely. Digital art is better than traditional art because I love to go to the Friday Art Walk in Salt Lake City. They have the best art exhibits. Did that sound like it was very focused? I started out talking about digital art being better than traditional art, and then I found myself at the Friday Art Walk in Salt Lake City. I mean, that was pleasant to go off on that tangent, but I've got to remain focused, right? Here we go. Digital art is better than traditional art as it is easier to make with all the materials available for free, and the ability to share digital art online is much greater than physical art. That would be an excellent claim. So rewrite this claim. Digital art is clearly the better choice. It allows a ton more options and makes for some pretty interesting art styles. So the problem that we have here is what? It's two sentences, right? It's supposed to be one. Well, let's go ahead and state the argument clearly. Digital art is better than traditional art. So that was another problem, is it didn't have the argument stated. And then stay focused and specific. We can go ahead and just pull what we had up here, because we did have some good evidence up here, because it allows a ton of more options and makes for some pretty interesting art styles. So just rewording that argument and pulling it directly from the prompt made that claim effective. You could also rewrite it in your own words, revision as a part of that writing process. So maybe you got to thinking about it and thought of a better way to word it, because having so many tools and options at one's fingertips provides an infinite number of ways one can create interesting art of all styles. No right or wrong answer. Do you know how to use a semicolon, people? So I saw a lot of opportunities for you guys to use semicolons. So I'm assuming that this is probably something that you haven't had a lot of opportunities to use, or you just haven't really learned it, or you learned it and then you forgot. So let's see if this time we can make it stick, okay? So we're just going to go ahead and take these two sentences that we have. Traditional art is much better than digital art because it was made without the use of computer programs. And the second sentence, it is all original. Now, I believe that we could take those two sentences and put them all together to make one claim, right? So using a semicolon joins two independent clauses. And don't you love it when you're trying to learn something and someone throws in a bunch of jargon that you don't know? So what is an independent clause? It's anything that can stand alone independently as a sentence. That's an independent clause. So how do you tell if something can stand alone as a sentence? Well, you simply read it out loud to check to see if it's a sentence. Does it make sense? Is it a complete idea? If so, then it's a sentence, right? So is this an independent clause? Traditional art is much better than digital art because it was made without the use of computer programs. The answer is yes, it can stand alone as a sentence. You can add a capital and a period, and it is an independent clause, therefore. Can this stand alone as a sentence? It is all original. Yes, of course. I can add a cap, an exclamation mark, and it's a sentence, so therefore it is an independent clause. So we're going to put these two independent clauses together now, okay? Traditional art is much better than digital art because it was made without the use of computer programs. So there's our first one. And then we're going to this is a common mistake that I see. We're going to take out that period, and we're going to put a comma in there. We're going to add our second clause, okay? It is all original. All right, so if you're reading that to yourself, you might recognize that that's not really the correct way to use a comma, right? A comma is not used to join two sentences together. That's what a period does, right? So, no, it's not a sentence when it's written this way, because you can't join two independent clauses together with just a comma. But what can you do? You can join them with a comma and a coordinating conjunction. So here's a list of those: and, but, for, or, nor, so, yet. And the one that fits here pretty well is so. Let's see if we read it and if this makes sense. Traditional art is much better than than digital art, because it was made without the use of computer programs, so it is all original. Excellent. Well, this implies that if you make something out of a computer program, it's not original. Food for thought. And you could also join these two independent clauses together with a simple semicolon. And that's it. You don't capitalize the it, but that's the very simple, concise version of using a semicolon. Take two sentences that complement each other really well, emphasize each other really well, stick a semicolon in between them, and bam, you've got a complex sentence. You can also use a semicolon with transitional phrases, and transitional phrases are words like therefore, however, as a result, on the contrary, consequently, of course, for example. So you would do your semicolon after your first independent clause, then you would add your transitional phrase, and you have to put a comma. And you'll recognize that pause, so let's read it together. Traditional art is much better than digital art because it was made without the use of computer programs. Therefore, it is all original. That's how it works, folks. So hopefully you like that structure. I love it. It adds a little variety and spice of life. You can use this sentence structure to create a smoother transition than the full stop that would have been dictated by a period. You could have had a period here as well and capitalized T for therefore it is all original, but therefore it is all original is a really short and simple sentence. It's not very interesting. Putting it all together in one sentence is more complex, more interesting. Sentence variety is the spice of the reader's life. If you look at these three sentences that we've put together, well, actually, this would be four because there's two in here, but if you look at these three different ways of joining these two independent clauses, what's your favorite? And why? Remember to only use a semicolon when it joins two closely connected ideas, okay? Use it to provide variety in your sentence types, but don't overuse it. Here's a non-example. This is not something you would want to do with a semicolon. Traditional art is better than digital art. The first Friday Art Walk has a diverse exhibit of traditional and digital art. Yeah, that's just not working, because when we say traditional art is better than digital art, if we're writing a claim, this first Friday Art Walk has nothing to do with our claim. It's not evidence to support that. So it may be an interesting tidbit of information that you want to talk about later on in your paper in the body, only if it supports your argument, because remember, everything you write in that paper needs to support your argument or your counterclaim, which is something that we're going to talk about later. Remember, an effective claim states the argument clearly, and it provides focused, specific, and relevant evidence. Here's my favorite example. This is my winner for the week. You might have your own from some of those sentences that you saw that were good claims. Traditional art is better than digital art because it is hand-drawn and classic. Why do I like this? Because it mentioned classic. And this might draw my attention back to that classical period that we talked about before, and it could be a very rich argumentative paper if we draw into that art history. So now that this lesson is complete, do you feel more confident about writing a claim? Reevaluate your position. Yeah, maybe just adding in that semicolon has increased your confidence. Even if you thought you were brilliant, you're like, wow, I can now be even more brilliant. And I did use student examples, so thank you for making mistakes. We all learn from mistakes. A life of mistake making is a life of learning. Just make sure that you don't keep repeating the same mistakes over and over and learn from them. The goals for this Friday's bell ringer are going to be 100% of students who completed this critique will write an effective claim. We're going to use the KISS strategy. Keep it super simple. Simplicity is the ultimate sophistication. So let's talk about the rules that I need to implement for this Friday bell ringer. Remember, only write one sentence. Make sure that you clearly state your argument. Draw that argument directly from the prompt. You must provide evidence. Keep it simple. And bell ringers will only be open for 1 week. So from the Friday that I posted, you'll have 1 week to complete that bell ringer, and there will not be any makeups after they're closed. It will just be too organizational challenging for me since it's not a part of Blackboard, since it's being done separate in Google Docs.